Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to KP. Annalise here. Hi, how y'all doing today? Ava was leading me up here to share. He's actually still just breathing on and elaborating on what we've been talking about as far as in the kingdom marriage journey. But today he's having me kind of straddle or tightrope the the EQ and the kingdom marriage as far as in the kingdom marriage journey. Of course, test the spirit by the spirit. Make sure you bring this back to Abba. These are conversation starters, remember. Make sure you bring this back to Abba to make sure it's for you, if it's a right now word or if it's a shelf word, and then what parts are for you. Don't just run with anything. Don't just take anything, because anybody can sit here saying Jesus, Holy Spirit, God, run it back with Holy Spirit so he can show you what's there, including mine. With that being said, Abba was elaborating on how we were talking about how it's bigger than you. There's a bigger picture. There's also that space of understanding it's Christ coming back for his bride, as well as just this part of understanding how it's necessary for you to be able to go through that process, and it's necessary for you to go through that process so that you're able to carry the mantle that you're given. Because in that space, if you're not if excuse me, if you are not surrendering to the process and you have not gone through the process, you're going to get beat up. You're going to get tone whopped by the enemy, because there's a space in place where, first off, the first frontier that they like to say is families. But it really goes down to the families having that foundation of actually a marriage. And this is what we were talking about before. So, being that the first frontier really is the marriage, this is where Satan likes to attack the most. If he can't, pin you two against each other, it's this space of having all these things going on around you to make it seem like, how do you say, it's the spouse's fault. So things that are happening, things that are going on, he's trying to warp your view to make it seem like, oh, it's because you're in this union, trying to create division. He's trying to kill, steal, and destroy in the place of him not liking marriages, not liking families, not liking communities. He likes that space of getting you isolated so he can tag you. He waits like a roaring lion, roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. So in that space, like, this is something that is always going to be attacked. Satan is coming whether you know it or not, and he's coming whether you're prepared or not. So you might as well know and understand. Blink, blink, blink. Understand it, because it's happening. Don't just be this ignorance is bliss, because this ignorance is bliss. You're gonna be like seven sons of Sceva out here getting beat up and don't know why. Um, you also need to understand that in that space, go ahead and get the training. That way you know what to do. When you know how to go in your prayer closet, you know how to go on a fast, you know how to talk to Abba, you know how to hear from Holy Spirit. Your sensitivity and your discernment is so sharp that you're able to pick out things as soon as you walk into a room, or even before you walk into a room, because most of the time, majority of the time, the Holy Spirit is already downloading that stuff to you. He's already giving you the blueprint. He's already giving you, hey, this is what's going on, XYZ. Sowing things in your spirit while you sleep, whispering things to you, dropping that download, dropping that strategy, dropping that knowing. There's all the different ways that he does it, but he's going to let you know. And it's about just being truthful, because the truth is truth, and he's going to let you know. He's not going to keep that from you. um he's not going to keep that from you. So there's that space. And so when it comes down to it, as we were elaborating on that and talking about that, Abba was just going at the other angle of it. Remember, we were talking about on the EQ side how it's a prism. That prism has different edges, it has different angles, it has different corners, it has different faces, like a shape. And so you're kind of touching every surface area of that shape. You move over a little bit, it's a whole nother color. You move over to the left a little bit, it's a whole nother color. You move down just a little bit to the maybe like the bottom right, it's a whole nother color. So you have this whole spectrum of how do you say, colors and stuff in between. And so it can get overwhelming when there's not just this black and white. And I think that's where thank you, Holy Spirit. I think that's where a lot of people kind of just get comfortable and also get fearful or maybe stuck, because it's comfortable just knowing the devil that you know, how they say it's comfortable just knowing that, opposed to understanding that there's all these different colors out here and you have no idea what's what, how to navigate it, etc., etc. But that's the whole point. You're doing life with God, and he's telling you what is for you and what is not for you. That is the whole point, because there's so much out here. When it came down to Adam and Eve, and biting that forbidden fruit in the space of knowing what God knows as far as in the truth about good and evil, that means that we didn't just know God and good, we knew God, good and evil. So it made it a lot more confusing. It opened up the door for so many different colors in between. And so, because everything is not just this black and white, and there's all these 50 different shades in between, um, everything is not what it seems, everything is not what it appears, as we've been talking about. And so, as you kind of walk down that and building upon that, there is that level of understanding that it's also bigger than you, as well as it being necessary, as well as the space of just having uh the bigger picture of you going out two by two, being a reflection of God as an adversary to his enemies, the space of you being built up and shaped in order to be sent out two by two. That way we're building the church, we're building the body, because Christ is coming back for his bride, being that bigger picture. And then there's that space of like, okay, understanding that it's more to it than you just help me, Holy Spirit. it's it's more to it, and it's more than what it seems, as far as in it's more than meets the eye. Thank you, Holy Spirit. When we're looking at the men and we're looking at the women, it's more than just what we see. It's more than just the outburst and the lashing out. Thank you, Holy Spirit. It's going to be the little girl in them, the little boy in them that is lashing out. And this is what we were talking about in the previous video. So in that space, in the little boy and the little girls in us, like lashing out, or just doing strange things. Like you see how some of these older people, they just, including me included, because we're not going to sit here and act like any of us are perfect, because we do have our moments, especially when you get into that space of when you're getting too emotional, or when you're getting you're projecting, as far as in your trauma, like coming out. Um you're you are holding too much, and because you're holding too much, you can't receive new downloads, you can't receive new revelation to be able to transform your mind and renew your mind, to like transform your to transform you. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Because the whole point is the renewing of your mind, so that you may be transformed in the space of, in that space of becoming. Thank you, Holy Spirit. In that space of becoming, you are going from faith to faith and glory to glory as you build. And so Abba was breathing on that, just kind of coming in on the angle of, it's more than just this little girl and this little boy that are crying out. Yes, that is the deeper issue, and that's what needs to be worked out. And that's how we're kind of tightroping on that space of like EQ, and then you got like kingdom marriage. When you're looking at the space of EQ, um, EQ is going to be, like I said, more in the realm of you regulating your emotions, articulating your emotions, and understand how your actions, reactions, and responses affect other people. And when you're able to do that, you're able to then come up higher. When you're in an emotional state, always brings it to me like this. It's that's funny. Thank you, Holy Spirit. He just, wow. Okay. So Frozen with is Frozen 2, when they're on the journey to basically figure out what happened to their parents and why everything went down the way it went down. They're going through this forest, and the forest has this very like shimmery, but it's very gray, thick cloud that goes through or is surrounding this forest. And in that space, there are people in the forest that can't get out, but on the outside, once you get in, you can't get out. And so, dang, wow. Okay, so flow with me here. As you go into your emotions, when you get into your emotions, it's hard to get out. Oh my goodness, wow. When you get in your emotions and you're not seeing things clearly, it's hard to get out. And that's what he was saying with that. Oh wow, 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 wow. Okay, so then as that was going on, that's how he's always like kind of described it to me. Another way is when you have a pot and it's boiling, how I think that's like a meme or something that's going on. That pot that's boiling, when it's boiling, the water in the pot, you can't see the bottom clearly. So that's how your emotions are when you're like they're all over the place. The bubbling is bubbling and steaming and everything. And even when it stops bubbling, the steam is coming up, and normally it's going to fog your vision where you still can't see at the bottom. Like, you have to wait until you're out of your emotions. You have to wait until you've calmed down. You also have to wait until you've removed that residue in order to come up higher, climb the giraffe, to see up higher, to see better, to see in a space of to see the way that Abba sees. And with that being said, there's a level of being able to do that that actually helps you in your marriage. When we were talking about in EQ, we were going over the space of uh TC relationship goals, where it was talking about there are six things before a person, meaning that there are things before a person that hang on one second. Okay, so I found it. There's six things before a person, because I always like remember like five of them, and then I can't remember that last one, and because they all start with a P, I'm like, which one is it? Oh my goodness. Okay, so it's presence, it's personality, purpose, parameters, place, and provision. These are six things before you get a person, and this is all going to be broken down in Genesis 1 and 2, where you get to see how Abba not only created the heavens and the earth, but also how he created man. And you get to see how these are all things that he gave Adam before he gave him a person. It was God's presence, because he was able to, of course, meet God first. And then he gave him personality by basically giving him his name, etc. Then there's the purpose, where he's giving him things to do, as far as to name the animals and whatnot. There are parameters. There's certain areas he couldn't go. Hey, you can eat from all of these trees, but the tree of good, the tree of life, of fruit of good and evil. You get where I'm going there. There's the place. He set him in the garden. That's where he's at. Then there's the provision, where everything was basically provided. There was everything that was given there. So there was all of these things that he did. And if you go back to Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, this is what was broken down in the what you call, so that you could see how there are six things before a person. Now, as we were breaking that down in EQ, is six things before a person, because this was before he actually put Adam to sleep. You got Genesis is it 2 Genesis 2, about around Genesis 2:20. Let me see. Hold on. I got it right here. One second. Yes, Genesis 2, verse 21. That is when he caused Adam to go into a deep sleep in order to take his rib to create Eve. And so that was how you had the six things before a person. In the space of having the six things before a person, you are looking at these are things that you have to get and understand. This is what they mean when you are going about understanding how you operate, understanding how you work. But you cannot understand you until you understand God. And that's where you have to get down into you. And that the way you get down into you is getting down into God first. And when you do that, because it was always the presence first. It was always the present. When he formed Adam, it was God's presence there first. It's always first and center for God. So when you do that, these are six things that you have before a person, but they are supposed to be something that is the foundation before you get to a person. Because if you're missing those six things before the person, when you get a person, this is how, thank you, Holy Spirit, excuse me, this is how it kind of teeters also in on that tightrope there. This is how it teeters into the kingdom marriage, because this is where you begin to get that person, but then you're trying to find identity, you're trying to find purpose, you're trying to find a place in that purpose, and in that purpose in that person. What that looks like is you don't have anything outside of that person. What that looks like is um help me, Holy Spirit. Right. So what that looks like is you not really having any type of anything outside of that person. So when that person may go out to eat out with their friends, go to see their parents, etc., etc., go do their hobbies, go do their work, you're kind of sitting there kind of twiddling your thumbs waiting for them to get back because you don't know what to do with yourself. It's what they call an anxious attachment style. You don't know what to do with yourself, and in the space of not knowing what to do with yourself, you kind of just like, okay, you find your identity in just being with that person. In the space of when they're around, you're around. When they mention them, there's you kind of attach your identity to that person. Not only do you attach your identity to that person, you don't necessarily have any things or hobbies or things that you're working on outside of that person. And it really looks like you kind of just like really just kind of just like, okay, I found my person. I found my person. I found my person. That's what that looks like, where you're not, you don't have anything that you're doing outside of that, but you weren't created to do that. In the space of, you were created to have that presence, that personality, the parameters and everything before a person. So even when you get a person, you still have to go back and go and get those six things in order to be able to thrive in this kingdom marriage. Otherwise, that looks like you bringing your unhealed self into the marriage. That looks like you bring your unhealed emotions and trauma and projections and uh thinking that they did you wrong and they did you this way, like there's all of that unhealed stuff that you bring to the table, all of the trauma, all of the drama, all of the toxicity, all of the different games and twisted mental manipulation and all of that stuff that you bring to the table. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're doing it. You don't even realize that it's going on, because you don't realize that that is stemming from the trauma. Here we go, balancing back to that EQ. You don't understand that that's coming from the trauma that you've experienced and the trauma that you have not processed or dealt with. And the space of you processing it and dealing with it is not just you brushing it under the rug. It's not just you tucking it away to forget about it, because every time, if you notice, every time something similar happens, or something happens even with a different person, or maybe it might be a familiar spirit in the space of like that energy from a new person might be that familiar to like the person who did whatever, you begin to project, you begin to act a certain way, you begin to get in this defensive mode, this survival mode to protect yourself, etc., etc. And that's what that will look like. We'll go deeper into this, but just kind of flowing Holy Spirit here. That's what that will look like when you're diving into that like that. And this is where the EQ is so important. Abba used my marriage as a way to get me down into the space of understanding myself, so I can walk on this healing journey to then understand EQ. And now that we've gone to the other side, it's this space of now give that out so that other people can be broken off from that. Because when I went down through my healing journey, when I began to understand EQ, it was almost like, how did you say it, Holy Spirit? It was like me being an adult again, adult again, me being an adult that had to go back to being a kid again to understand from a clearer lens of what my child lenses were looking at. Does that make sense? So help me, Holy Spirit. It's like, okay, when you're a kid, you remember things a certain way. There's this kind of I don't want to say haze, but there's this kind of glittery kind of vision that you have with a lot of things. You just see things in a very I don't want to say childish, but you see these things in a very kind of like whoa kind of way. And then when you get older and you know how you come back home, whether that be from college or you come back home from like, you life happened and you had to just go back home. Um you begin to see, and even as the stories are being retold, you just like, dang, I don't remember it like that, or dang, I don't remember that looking like that, or dang, I don't remember us doing that like that. You begin to see that from a different lens. Now that you're an adult, you begin to see, hey, that wasn't that way, or that wasn't considered that, or um I can't think of like real examples right now. Um ooh, sorry. I was trying to think, and Holy Spirit was still kind of elaborating like just okay. There's this place around here that I used to grow I grew up at, that when I was like a little kid, and like I said, I remember certain stuff that my mom just doesn't remember. um and so going back, you kind of see it differently. It don't look as big. The complex didn't look as big as I thought it was, or things just didn't seem the way that they looked when I was a kid. And you begin to understand that or notice that when you are older or when you are an adult. So it was basically when you're going on that healing journey, it's you as an adult now going back, because you have to go back to understand all of that stuff. Because otherwise, if you don't go back to understand that other stuff, you are carrying all of that with you. You can run, you can try and hide, you can try and all of those demons, all of that baggage is still looking at you and sitting all around you. It does not matter where you go. It does not matter who you're with. It does not matter, you know, how far you go. It's going to carry with you. And once it carries with you and you don't know how to release it, all it does is become this space of like a hoarding space, where there's more and more and more that is stocked up, more and more and more that is stacked. And as is more and more that is stocked and stacked up, um, it just becomes this place that seems like it's impossible to get out of, because there's all of these things that have kind of like locked you into this space of fear and toxicity and trauma and drama and all of these things. And it makes you fearful. It makes you not want to move. It makes you think certain things and believe lies. And it makes you just it kind of puts you in that shell, and you don't know how to get out of it, balancing on that EQ there. And if you take that into the marriage, the person is not going to matter. The person is not going to, because the person cannot heal that for you. The person cannot release that for you. The person cannot do anything but love, support, and encourage you in the space of helping you unpack it. But the only way that you are going to be able to unpack that is going to be able to go inside of you with Holy Spirit, with Abba, with Jesus, in order for you to understand what it is in the first place. Because when you go back on that EQ, when you go back into yourself as an adult, looking at yourself as a child, you begin to see how you saw that differently, or you may have saw that wrong, or you may have internalized it. If you notice, when you're looking at little kids, when you say for example, if you say oh, that's stupid, they they hear I'm stupid. So a lot of times as kids, we internalize things that shouldn't be internalized. When maybe the teacher confiscates a ball or confiscates something that the kids were playing with, they may internalize that as like, the teacher's out to get me. She doesn't like me. Um, you know what I'm saying? It's not something to, how do you say, beat down the kids block about, because it's something that they don't have that cognitive um thinking and understanding to be able to decipher the two. And when you don't know how to do that as a child, of course you wouldn't know how to do that as a child, because you're a blank slate. And so in not understanding that, you latch on to, I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that. And when you latch onto that, you see things from a very warped view as a child. But then when you go grow up and you go back and you see, it wasn't like I thought it was. And then you start to be going in onto that healing journey with Abba to see that, hey, it's not what it appeared to be. It's not what it looks like. And when you begin to see that and understand that, it's like, okay, it kind of tears down all of the lies that you believed for so long in being that kid. And so when you unravel that like that, help me Holy Spirit, when you unravel that like that, that is what's going to be helping you on the other side, as far as in the marriage part, to understand that it's way more to it than just you getting a person. That person is not going to fulfill that. There's a void in all of us that only God can fill. That person can't fill that. That person can't make you something. That person can't bring you this, that, and though. There's a level of fruits of the spirit that you have to have on your own. There's a level of fruits of spirit that you have to be able to tap into on your own, which brings me to the real point of all of this. Thank you, Holy Spirit, because He was setting the tone and building it all up for you to see that it's not about the women. When you have the women and the men, the women have lost their femininity, the men have lost their masculinity. And that's the problem. That's the problem that you're seeing run rampant heavy. Not only is it the EQ not understanding themselves, not understanding how they operate, not understanding when they're projecting something that doesn't necessarily need to be projected in that moment, or is not associated with being able to articulate and regulate. There's also that space of the women not being women anymore, and the men not being men anymore, not stepping into their masculinity, the women not stepping into their femininity. And when it comes down to the women with the femininity, it's more than just you cooking and cleaning, and looking good and smelling good. It's more than that. It's beyond that. It's your inner core. What is your inner spirit like? And that has to be based off of Abba. It has to be based off of your nature, which is nurturing, which is kind of breathing on things to be able to you're an incubator. You are supposed to have something, or be, you are supposed to receive, and as you receive and you incubate that, you're supposed to grow it and multiply. You're a multiplier. And you also are supposed to have it with this joyful, positive, as well as relaxing and how do you say, quaint, soft energy. That is what you bring to the table, and you have to understand how to tap into that. But the only way you understand how to tap into that is being with Abba, to understand how He formed you. He is the creator. We are the created. It's like having a TV or a car and you have a manual. You won't know how to fully operate it unless you go back to the manual. The manual is going to be Abba. He's the creator that had a manual that for you, for how you're supposed to operate. It's the same thing for the men on the opposite side. It's not just you leading and guiding and protecting. It's not just you bringing money to the table and you paying bills. It's not just that. It's also you having that EQ, that sensitivity to understand when your wife is going through something, when your wife is dealing with something, when there, you know how to get in your prayer closet as the man to protect and provide and guide the household. You know how to step into that EQ to be able to adhere to her and minister to her in ways that she can't even fathom. There's a level of you walking in your masculine that literally is like kryptonite. There's a level of women with you walking in your feminine that's literally like kryptonite. And we need to begin to walk back into our feminine and our masculine in order to be able to um understand each other better, communicate better, connect better, be in better intimacy, love each other better, be in joy with one another, have fun with one another, um, be playful with one another, and to really see each other as, hey, we are in this together. It's a unity thing and not a thing where it's now, I'm looking for you to uh, fill a void that's not for you to fill, or I'm looking for you to fill things that are really things that I am struggling with myself, as far as in identity, as far as in uh purpose. Like, you're supposed to bring me all of these things. You are supposed to be my, now that I found my person, I found everything. But then you realize, hey, I found a person, but I'm missing something. It don't feel right. It's because you're missing God. God is that missing puzzle piece in the space of, he's that centerpiece that needs to be right in the center in order for you to be able to navigate not just marriage and not just relationships, because we think relationship is just marriage or boyfriend girlfriend. No, relationships are everything, from your family to your friends, but also with your money, with your food. That, like, all relationships don't just mean people. If relationships is really a noun, any noun, person, place, or thing. So when it comes down to that, this is what Abba was kind of unfolding and breathing on. Like, hey, it's more than just the women being these. They look good, they smell good, they cook, they clean. It's more than just the men being leaders and protectors and providers, where they have the money and everything. It's more than that. It's deeper than that. When you have that firm foundation at your core, you're able to exude that. You're able to walk in your purpose. You're able to walk in that masculine. You're able to walk into your feminine. You're able to walk in that. And when you walk in that, it's like the yin and yang. It complements each other. Yes, the women are going to have a little bit of masculine, because when the men are not around, you're going to have to exert that masculine and step into that stuff, as far as in step into that authority. But then, the men, they're going to have a little bit of the femininity, and understanding emotions, and understanding the softness, and understanding how to be soft. But at their core, the men are masculine. At the core, the women are feminine. And when you had that yin and yang, it literally, it flows and works together. It flows and works together. That's the whole point. We're supposed to be back to back fighting the enemy. We're supposed to be flowing with each other, understanding how our strengths and weaknesses complement each other, not letting our strengths be things that we overbear or overload each other with, and then we point out the weaknesses and flaws and amplify those to make those what is wrong with everything. We can't do that. We can't do that no more. This is the part of, like, just kind of like tight roping that between EQ and the kingdom marriage journey. But that is what Abba has given me to speak. So again, test the spirit by the spirit. These are conversation starters. And do the thing, like, comment, subscribe. Remember, God is love, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. And I will be back. I will be back when he leads me to. Thank you for watching. Bye.